Anca. Thanks for being here, and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. First I'll just apologize for not making it this morning when I was supposed to be here. Yeah, so my name is Anca. I work at the UK Data Service in the UK. Today I'll be speaking to you about data management and fairness with migration data. I will focus on sharing and fair principles, so how to make your data fair. This is a short summary, so first, can I just get a show of hands who has heard of the UK Data Service or has deposited data with us before or knows what we do? Okay, so that's good. So for those that don't, it's a short introduction, and then I gathered some migration data and case studies from different archives and repositories. And then we had a migration data seminar last November, capturing testimony of the contemporary migrant crisis. And I just included some lessons from there. And then moving on to some innovative ways to collect and use migration data, also that we learned from this seminar that we had last year. And then the biggest part of the presentation will be into how to make data fair, useful resources, how to prepare for sharing data, where to publish your data if you're planning to, and then discussion and an exercise, making your data fair. This is optional depending on what time we have, and also what your priorities are and what you are interested in. We might change that, or we might just have an open discussion about the presentation. Okay, so at the UK Data Service, we're the UK largest collection of UK and international social and economic and population data. We have over 7,800 studies in our catalogue, so those are data collections. We are funded by the SRC in the UK, and we have about 25,000 users. Our data collections include major UK government-sponsored surveys, cross-national surveys, longitudinal studies, census data, international aggregate business data, as well as quantitative data. And I have a short video here, hopefully it will work. It's a minute or so. Just let me listen to my voice.
And I work in the collections development team at the UK Data Archive, which is part of the UK Data Service. Our strengths really are in brokering access to data. That's actually finding and cultivating relationships with people who have data, and also enabling the right access pathways. So our expertise is in licensing, in governance, and in providing access to these data.
It's a one-stop shop for a whole range of data with the same application processes. So it makes it much easier to access it really quickly and easily.
We've got a fantastic collection that comprises over 7,000 collections of data, and they include some of the major government surveys that have been collected actually back to the 1960s. We host a whole load of longitudinal studies, which means you're following people over time, a number of qualitative data sets, that will be oral history interviews with people. And we also hold some of the global indicators from countries around the world.
I mean, it's really hard to think of a world without the UK Data Service. The knowledge base of Britain would be kind of hugely impaired, effectively. It really is that important. My name's Curtis Wales.
Okay, so I looked through different archives and repositories for migration data, and these are some of the examples that I found. So we have the lived experiences of migration. This is And I put in brackets where I got the collection from. So the first three are from ourselves. The fourth is from ETH MIG, and the fifth as well. And then we have one from Zenodo as well, and another one from ourselves. They're all hyperlinked, so you can, the presentations will be available after, so you can have a look. I'm not going to go into them, but just for you to sort of have an idea of the different ways to access migration data. And some migration data case studies. So this is a case study that was published by ourselves. So this is on dispersal policy, onward migration, and integration of refugees in the UK. It used the survey of new refugees from 2005 to 2009. There's the DOI there, which is an important important link that we'll discuss in more detail later, what it is and what it does and why is it very important in terms of fairness of data. And that is how the data actually looks in the catalog. So you have the title, you have the access level stated, the DOI, and who produced the data. Another case study, so we have the impact of migrants in London, its workforce and its economy, and this one used quite a lot of, quite a few secondary data, so it used the ONS annual population survey, the annual business survey, the London business survey, and the labor force study. And again, these data are controlled, some of the data is controlled, meaning as opposed to safeguarded, that it's more sensitive, and so it needs a higher level of access. Okay, so moving on to the migration crisis seminar that we had and some lessons. So we used migration research as a case study, and we invited different stakeholders to a one-day event in November last year. So they were both researchers, research participants. We also had third sector and other archives as well. And we focused on the complexities and opportunities of sharing, archiving, and reusing migration data. So for those of them that collected data, our interest was into how they prepare that data for archiving, how are they perhaps thinking of sharing that data, using what platforms, what were the major barriers that they encountered when they tried to make their data available, and also what were the problems that they had from an ethical standpoint. So at the point of collecting data, if we think that the participants were people that were quite in a difficult situation, and it's not an easy population to reach and data from. So some of the lessons, so the speakers showcased the value, of course, of past migration stories. Since different eras have different discourses, future secondary users may reach different conclusions than primary users using the same data. We had some historians in the room as well, and Ed Packard noted the fragmentation of data sources available for his research and said that his work was similar to a jigsaw puzzle, so he had to chase different sources of data. Not all of them were available, not all of them, some of them were just locked down, not available to anyone. And he called upon migration researchers to contribute to reference archives. And he made the point that certain, so why is it so important to share this data, is that certain official voices and records are better preserved than others. And then for some of his research, there was only data available from state institutions, so from officials, but no accounts from the actual migrants. So this was data collected back in the 1970s. And I just included that his research is on the last children of 1937 that came with the kinder transport, just for a bit of background. So moving on to some innovative ways to collect and use migration data. So given the problems that I mentioned earlier in terms of collecting this data, and considering the population that they were interested in as well, some of the the stakeholders present, they reported finding some new ways of collecting data and sharing data. And one of them was produce a documentary of refugees in transit to give research participants a voice. And then one of the issues or the problems that I mentioned earlier is that in collecting this data was that some of the refugees did not have, were not granted asylum yet, so they were nervous about being interviewed. Another project worked with citizen social scientists, a stewardship community in Beirut. So they were recruited from communities, and they were very well connected in the community. So they were very useful in helping to collect data of different types, so both interviews, survey, and focus group discussions. And then one archive in Rome co-produced audio and video documentaries and personal narratives, and that is used in schools with active participation of migrants, as well as presenting data through participatory documentaries and booklets. And all of these outputs are open source, which is quite an achievement, given how difficult it is to make this data open access. Okay, so now moving on to making data fair. So you've probably, can I just get a show of hands how many of you've probably all heard of the FAIR principles, but would you say that you're applying these in your research? Are you trying to publish FAIR? Yeah, yes? You are, okay, yeah? Okay. So what are they? So it's basically just a set of principles that helps others understand and reuse your data. But when we think about attributes of this data, so we want it to be high quality, we want it to be accurate, we want it to be well organized and documented, easily accessible, and available and valid in the long term. So, of course, people, if you ask them, okay, what kind of data would you like to access, they can have different definitions of that, they can have different understandings.